I've used and reviewed lots of solar powered decorative lights over the last few years, but there's always one problem with solar powered lights in the UK, particularly in the winter. They just don't manage to get a sufficient charge to last all night, or really beyond a few hours. But this set is different, because this set can also be charged via USB, which gives them a whole new lease of life compared to most of those that are on the market. So let's take a look at how they work. Now the first option is to charge the lights via the solar panel, which can either be fitted on a stake in the ground like so, and then angled into the sun, ideally south facing to make the most of the sun that's available in the UK, or it can be fitted onto this bracket and then wall mounted, again angled upwards into the sun, and ideally facing south to make the most of the available sunlight. But in the winter in the UK, and currently in November at the moment, we're having rain and gales, and that's just not practical because the charge would be minimal and the lights wouldn't last for very long. So the way that these can charge in the winter is via this mini USB here. So you can bring them indoors for charging, or rather just bring in this unit for charging, leave the lamps outside in situ obviously, and the solar panel. But rather than relying purely on the solar panel for charging, there is this internal battery here, an 18650, 2000 milliamps, and this charges via the mini USB or the solar panel. This also has the controls here to switch them off or on and adjust the mode as well. Now there is a light sensor in the solar panel, which means that they don't switch on during the daytime in the daylight, but they do switch on at night in dusk conditions. So to simulate dusk, I'll have to turn it over so no light reaches the solar panel, and then for daylight I'll turn it back this way, and at this point the light should go out. So let's have a look at the lamps and see how they operate. First of all, I'll turn them on. As you can see, there was just a quick flicker then when I turned them on. I'll now turn off the light. That now is simulating dusk. There's a much dimmer light here, obviously, and there's a little bit of light for filming, and they're just going into a slow flash mode. By pressing the mode button, we can adjust the mode and have different styles of flashing or permanently on. As you can see there, those lamps are illuminated but those aren't, so if they're spread out in the screen that will be alternate, one lamp on, one lamp off. Now the lamps are flashing, just turn them on so you can see both ends. It's permanently on. Alternate flashing. All lamps on. Different flashing mode. And so on. So you get the idea. Now, if this is daylight, the lamps go off. Simulating dusk again, and the lamps come back on. Daylight, dusk. So by having this USB charging option, this now means you can get the full benefit of the lamps whatever time of year and whatever the weather conditions. As soon as the internal battery begins to fade, then simply bring this unit in, charge it up via mini USB during the day, screw the top back on, and then the lamps are ready to go again at night. So you should get a few days usage out of that now, but you've got control again, which is something you don't really have when you're totally dependent on solar power. So for anyone who wants to use decorative lamps all year round, and this is a good set because they've got this nice plastic coated wire, which I always like to see on external lights. Some have just bare copper wire, but that can become quite brittle, particularly once it's been out in the frost, the snow and the cold and the wet. typical British weather, whereas this is much more durable and much more pliable and longer lasting. So anyone who wants some lamps that you can genuinely use all year round and will last all night long, then this is a very good set, and they produce a very nice warm white light from the LEDs, and you know that they are going to remain illuminated, which is something that most sets can't promise.